Live from the Mighty Veedverks Airship, I am Travis Lippert, CEO of Verks Unlimited Limited, better known as Veedverks. And today, ordinarily on Tuesdays, we are doing a show with Michael Miller, but he is on his way to Jamaica right now to attend CanX. So shout out to Michael. I was on the fence about whether to make this look like the airship or whether I should do the Denver background for the mainstream cannabis media empire that we do on Tuesdays, but without Michael it just didn't seem right. So here we are in the airship, and we have with us today an amazing guest. The royal we, because it's just me here right now, but we have Kansas Attorney General candidate Sarah Swain with us today. So Sarah, I thank you very much for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you. I've got some questions. So you grew up in Kansas. You're a third generation Kansan. Is that correct? And then went to Baker in Baldwin City, then law school at KU, which I see in the background. And your platform is, well, rather than me tell people what your platform is, would you mind telling people what you're all about? Wait, I think I've screwed this up. There we go. Wait, talk at me.
This coming Monday.
Yes. Okay.
Get it?
Yes. All right. So she said that she's been a defense attorney for 17 years in Kansas.
Yep. This coming Monday is my 17-year anniversary of my first day on the job as a public defender back in 2001. And so, you know, I've spent the last 17 years of my life and my career traveling around the state of Kansas, going into large counties and small, and defending people's rights, you know, keeping people out of jail, keeping families together, fighting for people's freedoms, fighting for people's lives in some cases. And I've just gotten to the point, I got to the point in 2018 that I was so disgusted with the criminal justice system and the unfairness of it all, that I decided that I wanted to do something. I wanted to give Kansans the opportunity to vote for a candidate that believed in things like criminal justice reform. That's probably the cornerstone of my platform. The criminal justice system is broken, and we need someone who's going to come in and look at a head to toe, top to bottom, inside out reform. We need fewer people in jail and prison, not more in
That's
this
right.
country. And ending the war on drugs is one of the ways that we go about accomplishing that goal. That's another one of my cornerstones of my campaign platform. I believe that the war on drugs is a failed war that is really just a war on society's most vulnerable. That's really what the war on drugs is, and it is a failure. The war on drugs has failed, and it needs to end. And the sooner it ends, the better that we as a society become. I truly believe that. I have watched too many people, good people that could be active participants in our society, be thrown into jail and prison over small amounts of drugs. Our local DA in the county that my office is located, where I live, he's an elected Democrat in a heavily Democratic county who still goes to court on or sends his people to court on a daily, weekly basis to ask for prison time for people on drug crimes. I don't agree with that, and I don't believe that that's what's taking Kansas in the right direction. in case you can't tell by what I've already said, I also support full legalization of marijuana. Kansas is one of 4 states. We're one of only 4 states that still believe that the right policy is just complete and total 100% prohibition. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It flies in the face of what we know about marijuana today. It hurts Kansans. It hurts patients. It hurts veterans. It hurts everyone. It hurts our economy. Let's start there. Let's start there for the people that want to talk about money. Let's talk about how much incarceration is a drain on our system, and we need to stop spending our tax dollars on putting people in jail and prison, which leads to more people coming out of jail and prison that are no longer able to really fully participate in society. And let's start taking that money and putting it into things that actually moves our state forward, like our public education system. Let's build schools, not jails. So I'm a progressive Democrat running in Kansas. I stand for pretty much the opposite of every position that my opponent, who's a Republican incumbent, stands for, and has gone to court to uphold things like joining lawsuits so that employees can fire transgendered workers. These are not the ideals of my state of Kansas. The state of Kansas and the politics of the state of Kansas have been hijacked by right-wing conservatives. And I believe that November 6, 2018 is the day that we have the opportunity as a state to take it back. So that's why I'm running for Attorney General.
I love it. I would also like for Kansas to spend less time pulling over cars with Colorado license plates on them. That's a big fear of mine every time I drive home, is that like I get my car super detailed, but you're saying the best direction for Kansas in my one-liner. The best direction for Kansas right now is west. We have all of these, I mean, from a cannabis standpoint, because we have all of these cannabis refugees who have moved here from Oklahoma and from Kansas and Nebraska, and it's just it's a shame that people.
Well, in fact, what I would say is the direction for Kansas isn't necessarily west. The direction for Kansas is forward.
I like that.
Let's elect some people that believe in moving our state forward. Let's vote out all of the politicians in Topeka that have made it their life's mission to keep Kansas in the dark ages. Their policies do not reflect the citizens of Kansas. The policies of Topeka do not reflect what the people of Kansas want, but that's only going to matter if the people of Kansas will get up off the couch and go out and make their voices heard come this election.
I think a lot of people are going to go vote this time around. It seems like I think there's going to be a lot of voter turnout. It'll be interesting to see which way it shakes out. So on industrial hemp with Kansas, like I was thinking, speaking of being concerned about my car, like I've had, pounds of hemp in my trunk before here, which is perfectly legal. But like that is hemp, and it is, this company Maven, that's one of their products, but it's hemp, and it's like smokable hemp. And Kansas is getting ready to become, whether they know it or not, an industrial, agricultural just juggernaut in the hemp space. And hemp is it is not marijuana. It's a farm thing. It's not a drug thing. But at the same time, it is all part of the same plant.
Well, and the question is, why aren't we already? That's my question. Why aren't we already a juggernaut? We have the land, we have the farmers, we have the equipment. Why are we not doing that? Why are we not pursuing policies like industrial hemp that only bring benefits to the state of Kansas, that only help the economy, that only help Kansas, that only help our farmers who our state relies on heavily? Why are we not doing that already? I don't understand. It makes no sense to me why our politicians in Topeka seem so dead set on making Kansans' lives difficult.
Topeka is kind of a weird town. Topeka is, if I go to some weird city and I always compare it to Topeka. Like, this is the Topeka of Iowa. It's a weird political climate. My dad and his wife live there still, and don't get him started about politics because I think a lot of people in that state are frustrated, and a lot of people with kids are frustrated because of what has happened with their my understanding is what's happened with their education system there. It seems like it's woefully underfunded, and something like industrial hemp, which Kansas will start growing industrial hemp next year, provided they can get it together in time. But and industrial hemp should be included in the Farm Bill, which should be passed by September 30th. So we're within, I don't even know what day it is, but it seems we're within a week of when the 2014 Farm Bill expires. So they can vote that through, then I think it will make things easier for Kansas. But one way or another, they're entered into now they're going to do their pilot program like Colorado did starting in 2014. Like, we're the evidence. This is what the pilot program looks like, is you have new businesses pop up that didn't exist before, employing people. I think it would be really great for Kansas to have an attorney general who is at least in tune with, number one, not throwing everybody in prison all the time for I love the fact that you're a defense attorney who's running for attorney general. There are these ads on TV. I saw one this morning about the knock on, I think it must be the Democrat attorney general candidate for Colorado. The ad was, "He's never put a single person in jail." I thought, you know what, that's kind of nice, actually. I'd like somebody who has seen the criminal justice system from the opposite side of the spectrum instead of always being the prosecutor. I like that there's opportunity there for some sound judgment, compassion. You've got two things on your website: equal justice and equal access to justice. And I wondered if you could explain the difference between those.
Oh man, Travis, I could probably write a book about those two answers. But equal justice is making sure that the law is treating people equally, which in my estimation almost never happens. No one's treated equally under the law. Everything about outcome in the criminal justice system, maybe not everything, but almost everything about what your outcome is going to be in the criminal justice system is based on your socioeconomic status, your sex, your race. I've represented thousands of clients. I don't have to read any books to tell me about what the problems are with inequality, with racism, with sexism, with discrimination, with the way, starting all the way from who the police choose to engage in encounters with. You got to go all the way back to that. Let's start with the pipeline to prison. Let's talk about the conversation I had 2 days ago with a mom whose adopted Native American child is being put in in-school suspension in kindergarten.
For what?
The pipeline to prison, Travis, it starts real early. We are grooming children from the time they're born to take their eventual place behind bars and become part of that workforce. And it's disgusting, and I could not be more opposed to it. So equal justice is ensuring that as Attorney General of Kansas, I will make sure that people are treated equally, that you're not going to get special favoritism if you are if your skin is the right color, or if you are the right people.
You're wearing a suit and tie.
If you're wearing a suit and tie, exactly. Equal access to justice is a little bit different to me because I actually wrote that after I had some very interesting but painful and horrifying discussions with some family members of some young people that had been murdered. And I'll talk about one case in particular because it was several different cases. But in this case, a young African American man went to a party with some of his friends out in the country, and he never came home. And the next morning, his family started searching for him. Long story short, he had been murdered. And when this African American family got in their cars and drove to this county where their son, brother, nephew, best friend had gone missing, they were stopped by law enforcement and told that they had to go home, and if they persisted in going any further, that they would be arrested.
That's not right.
And just recounting the story is so horrifying. Imagining yourself in that situation, and your child has gone missing, you don't know where they are. When I say equal access to justice, that's really what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean that the Attorney General's phone is going to ring a lot, and the concerns of all Kansans are going to be listened to, not just some. Equal access to justice. I'm going to be there to make sure that Kansans are being protected, that Kansans are being treated right. As the top law enforcement officer of Kansas, how in the world could we have gotten to a place in time, Travis, where law enforcement acts like that?
I think it's when they started armoring the cops, and cops started. They stopped driving around in black and white cars with big lights on the top so you could see, the cops. And now they're in these stealthed out, SUVs with hidden lights. It look like Uber drivers, and they're wearing tactical like battle uniforms and carrying M16s around and stuff, or M4s. And I don't know when it switched, maybe around 9/11, but I think I could trace it to when cops started all being undercover. It feels like something switched between the protect and serve has turned into I'm going home tonight thing. There's been this this change in attitude with I think cops should have to fill out like that much paperwork every time they unholster their gun on somebody, and because that's scary as hell to have a gun pointed at you, and I don't know, that's one of the most bothersome things to me, I think, as far as just the way that police treat people. I see them point their guns at way too many people, and I don't think they take that seriously enough.
Well, Travis, I think, I always make sure to try to make a full circle when this discussion comes up, because I have been painted repeatedly as being this anti-cop person, anti-cop candidate. And I just want to make something really clear. My ultimate decision to run for Attorney General came after I got involved in a tax question that was being posed here in Lawrence early this year. And the question was, should we raise the sales tax to build a giant new jail? The price tag the city was attaching to it, or the county, was $44 million. The price tag that I attached to it is more like $200 million, because the city's number only covered construction, did not cover what it was going to cost to actually run a jail of that size once it was open. So we're talking about tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And I, of course, was immediately opposed to that idea. As I'm enrolling my child in school in first grade in our public school here in town, and just seeing how the schools are crumbling, the teachers have nothing, they have no supplies, the parents are responsible for, providing as many of the supplies as possible, which is fine for me. I'm an attorney. When I was growing up and I was one of 6 children, my dad was a disabled veteran. My mom was a stay-at-home mom of 6 children. We could not have afforded the fees and costs that it would have taken to even enroll in school. But I digress. So I'm seeing my county commission being perfectly happy writing an essentially blank check for hundreds of millions of dollars to fund incarceration, while at the exact same time our schools in Lawrence are crumbling. And I started looking into the idea of how have we brainwashed the American public into believing that mass incarceration is the answer. And one statistic that I found that blew my mind, and I can't repeat it enough, is that there is no correlation, zero, scientifically, between increased incarceration numbers and lowered crime rates. Let me repeat. There is zero correlation, as we've gone from a country that 20 years ago, 30 years ago had 300,000 people in prison, and now we have a prison population of 2.3 million, and it has made a 0% impact on the rate of violent crime, on the rate of crimes. Why are we doing it? Yeah. It's not making us safer. It's using up our very minimal, valuable resources that we have to allocate amongst a whole bunch of very important priorities, like our children, our veterans, our health care. These are things that should come first, and incarceration should come after that. So when I talk at length about why I think it's important for us to lock fewer people up, that conversation automatically shifts back to the police, because the police are the beginning of that pipeline. And until we make sure that the police go back to doing what they are here for, which is to protect and serve, not to ticket us to death, not to tax us to death, not to put us all in jail or prison, but to protect us and to serve us. That is how we get back to the society that I think we all can agree on that we want. In Lawrence, we voted that down. The people of Lawrence said, we don't want to spend our money on this jail. And instead, in November, I don't know if you knew this, we have a new question on the ballot that is only funding for a mental health campus, which is what our entire argument was the whole time. It was that they were trying to get the people of Lawrence to approve the jail by attaching it to a mental health center that's desperately needed. And so we had to go out and talk to people, knock on doors, and explain to them that we are not anti-mental health. We are not against doing that. We are just not going to be blackmailed into voting for a big jail in order to get the mental health care that the people in this community need. And by getting people active and out the door and voting on that question, we were able to accomplish that. And I think the mental health facility will pass easily come November 6th.
Where are they going to build it? Do they know?
I don't know. I know initially there was a lot of discussion of it being a partnership with Lawrence Memorial Hospital and Burt Nash and a lot of other community organizations. I don't know what happened to it exactly after the last vote, because the no vote came down on May 15th, and I filed to run for Attorney General on June 1st. So I have not had the time to devote to keeping track of the exact specifics of it. But I'm excited. I think that's a step in the right direction for Lawrence, because that's another way to stop the pipeline to prison. We have to stop making our jails and our prisons a repository for mentally ill people. But we can only do that if we have the resources that it takes to address issues of mental illness. And I feel exactly the same way about addiction. But investing money in mental health and addiction services is really investing money in your community. You are helping people stay in the community, continue to be able to be part of the community, continue to be able to work, not saddling people with criminal histories that are going to keep them from being able to get jobs, get housing, get student loans. It only makes sense. It only makes sense to do it that way.
Well, if it doesn't work out in Kansas, I would highly encourage you to check out Colorado. I think you'd make a great attorney general. It's also, I'll be the hustler for the money. It is a reality of politics that if you want to put yard signs in yards and bumper stickers on cars, then you need to raise money. And so I've linked to your Sarah Swain for Attorney General right at the top of this page. Your website is Sarah Swain for, what is it, Sarah? What's the URL?
AttorneyGeneral.com.
Yeah, Sarah Swain for AttorneyGeneral.com. Especially like all my friends in Lawrence, like, get behind Sarah. This is how awesome would it be to have a compassionate attorney general who sees something in people besides just future warm bodies to put in beds in these ever expanding prisons. It's I think that would be a really good thing, Kansas.
Well, Travis, being the candidate that I am, which is a female, progressive, criminal defense attorney, I'm a lifelong Democrat, although I don't feel especially good feelings towards my party at the moment because my own party came out and denounced me as the candidate for Attorney General shortly after I filed. And that really had the impact that they wanted it to have, which was keeping the big money donors away from my campaign. That's really what I believe the Kansas Democratic Party set out to do, and I think they accomplished that. So we all know why those people donate money to political campaigns. The question is, do everyday people want to write a check for $100 or $500? I mean, the maximum campaign donation is $2,000. My opponent, he gets lots and lots and lots of campaign donations from Monsanto and the Koch brothers and check cashing places galore. We know what his interests are, and we know that he's going to continue to do what he's done for the last 8 years if he gets reelected, which is to be a good team player for the other Republicans and to do everything that he can to support their outdated, sometimes unconstitutional policies that that they want to keep pushing forward in this state. So the only way that you compete with that, he has hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, and there are political action committees just waiting to, you know, give him much more. So, one, people have to get registered to vote, and people have to get out the door to vote. That is my first priority. I don't like taking money from people. If I could just get all of the people to go and register to vote that think any of the things that I've talked about so far are important, that would be far more beneficial to me than people writing me checks. But here's the thing. I can reach those people and let them know that I'm here and what I stand for and why they need to get out to vote if people will help contribute to my campaign. Every dollar that goes in the campaign war chest is just one more dollar that can be spent in the final weeks of this election, reaching all of those people who say, I don't even vote anymore. What's the point? I hear those people talking, but they're not saying anything that means anything to me. What's the point of going to vote? They're not here to help me. They're not doing anything that I believe in. And I think that Sarah Swain for Attorney General stands for a lot of things that a lot of people believe in. The question is, can we motivate those people, and can we get them out the door to vote? And guess what? You don't even have to get out the door to vote anymore. You can register online. You can do a mail-in ballot. I mean, they have made it as easy as they can possibly make it, while at the same time having Chris Kobach, our Secretary of State, make it as difficult as he can possibly make it to vote. But please, campaign donations and just talking to people you know about the importance of this election. Please do it. Talk to everyone you know. Open up a newspaper, read for 30 seconds, and you will be reminded why the outcome of this election is so important.
Hear that, Lawrence? I'm going to be hitting up a lot of Lawrence friends. You guys, go share this video. Let's get the message out and maybe do something good for Kansas this year. I'm super happy. I'd like to give a thank you everybody who's tuned in so far, and one of the people who's tuned in is Phil Kelly, who's Democrat candidate for Colorado District 13. Did I say senator yet? Senate District 13. And I think Phil Kelly's been giving us some amens along the way. You guys view the world similarly. So just thanks for tuning in to everybody who's doing that. Would you, usually, Michael is here with lists of questions. Is there anything that you'd like to tell people that I haven't managed to ask you yet? Do you have a joke?
A joke?
Nobody's ever got a joke.
Let me think. My daughter who's 6, she was just telling me jokes. How about this one? This is from her princess joke book. Although I'm not sure what this has to do with princesses. Why do sailors make good husbands? You know, my husband's a sailor, so I guess it's appropriate.
I don't know.
Because they know how to tie the knot.
Oh boy.
My daughter loves entertaining me with corny jokes, and I love being entertained by them. That one manages to stick in her head. I've heard it about 15 times, I think.
That's awesome. Did you know that Kansas was once billed itself as the Central Park America's Central Park?
I did not know that.
Yeah. I can't believe that. I saw this commercial so many times. If you don't mind, I'll play it for people real quick. Because when I think of Kansas in music, I think of, Carry On My Wayward Son. And then I think of, let's see. Sure, I bet you're going to, if you don't remember it, then you're going to start thinking that you remember it because it's so catchy. Wait, and move that down there. There, here we go. Let's see.
And there where I go,
No,
rep my shit.
that's not it. It didn't work. But Kansas, do. Here we go. Let's see. I'll put it on the overhead speakers so you can hear it. How about that? Okay. Yeah. America's Central Park. Let's clean up America's Central Park, and let's get an attorney general in there who's got a heart. And
You know, Travis, just watching that makes me a little sad because that's the Kansas that I want my daughter to grow up in. That's the Kansas that, the place that beckons for people to want to come to. Remember when we were that place? When was the last time you heard someone out of Kansas talk nicely about Kansas? I mean, whenever I travel, I'm constantly running into people who have horrible stories to tell about an experience they had, someone they know that had a horrible experience, someone's had a terrible experience with the criminal justice system. I mean, we have really developed a reputation as being a backwards state, and we're not backwards people. I blame the people in Topeka. Let's get back to being that Kansas where businesses want to come and set up shop and provide jobs to our citizens, and people want to come as tourists because we don't have draconian laws and they might end up in jail if they come here. We have an economy that's bustling, and we have money to spend, and we have a great education system. That used to be Kansas. It's not anymore. people leave Kansas to flee all of the things that I just talked about. They flee our public school system. They flee our draconian laws. It's someone has to do something to turn that around, and I think that I can be one of those people, but I have to get people behind me supporting me, and financial support is definitely part of that.
Yeah, hear that, people? Donate, get loud, share this video. Let's help Kansas. I think I want to create a job in Kansas next year. That's what I would like to do. And actually what I'd like to do is create a bunch of jobs, but planting hemp with a crop duster and then carving it into a hemp maize for harvest time, like a corn maze, because that's going to be totally legal next year. So I don't know, I spent a lot of time talking to people about trying to accomplish this. So we'll do our little bit. You guys can tax it a lot, pay for some schools.
Right.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Sarah, for calling in, and I'm going to definitely start hitting up all of my friends. Anybody who knows what LFK is, I'm texting you and telling you to share this video and get Sarah's message out there. She would be a fantastic attorney general for Kansas, and she needs your support.
Travis, it's just astounding to think about when we think about the hundreds of millions of dollars that will be spent this year, next year, the year after that, the year after that. When I was looking at all of these statistics, when I was educating myself to be able to go out and talk to the public in Lawrence about why they should vote against this jail, I saw a statistic that said in the next 5 years, the state of California will spend $1 billion on the death penalty. Not on their entire criminal justice system, not on just on the death penalty. $1 billion with a B. These numbers are too big. These numbers are too big. And when you think about the idea that for $100,000, I would have a real shot at being elected attorney general, $100,000, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. And I can guarantee you right now, I will save the state of Kansas hundreds of millions of dollars that we can reinvest. I will make the state hundreds of millions of dollars by being a vocal, aggressive, outspoken proponent of things like legalizing marijuana and going as full bore as we can with industrial hemp. That, I believe, is what will save Kansas and Kansas farmers.
Oh.
I believe that industrial hemp and marijuana will save the Kansas
farmers.
I
do too. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think that Kansas could experience a new heyday. In fact, not even a new day. Like, when they plowed up all that prairie, they were selling it as, the rains follow the plow, or the railroad companies were the rains follow the train, like getting all, and a lot of people, we plowed under the entire prairie, and it's been a hard scrabble life in western Kansas since the get-go for those farmers, and hemp has the potential to put a lot more money in their pockets. And that, I think Kansas could see a new day. Maybe it could be the Central Park of, what is it? America's Central Park someday. Maybe you would want to.
We still are. We just have to rediscover that.
I forgot to ask you about cryptocurrency. You're also interested in that, and that's part of your platform.
Well, I am, and I believe that I set out trying to find a way to accept campaign donations through cryptocurrency, and I found out very quickly that the powers that be do not appreciate that. As is true with most things in politics, every single aspect of politics involves hypocrisy. So, in Kansas, you're not allowed to accept campaign donations via cryptocurrency because of you never know where the money's coming from. And yet, in the same breath, we have campaign finance laws that allow quote unquote dark money just to flood in by the millions and billions and trillions, and and that's all totally fine. So I just think that as a society, cryptocurrency is here to stay. And I think the more that our government can accept that and start finding ways to make it work with government instead of having this animosity that seems to exist, it doesn't make any sense to me. Nobody has been able to tell me why that makes any sense. No politicians can explain to me what the downside is, other than that their power is derived from keeping track of everybody's pennies and nickels and dimes, and the easiest way to do that is by making everybody use a centralized bank. So, I'm just here for common sense on all levels, including cryptocurrency. It's 2018. It's not 1818. Let's move forward. Let's move Kansas forward. Just once, let's be on the forefront of something instead of always pulling up the rear. I'm tired of that being the reputation of who Kansas is. We pioneered this shit, Travis Lippert. We started this shit right here in Kansas. Let's get back to being the pioneers that we all come from.
Yep.
Let's make Kansas a state that we can be proud of again. That's what I want.
Are you a Chiefs fan by any chance?
Well, asking me about the NFL is probably not the best topic of conversation these days. I have completely turned my back on the NFL as a whole. I spent my whole life being a fan, supporting the NFL, going to games. A couple of years ago, I was able to take my dad to a playoff game, and
done.
I'm confused. The current debate, I side with players having constitutional rights to express themselves and to protest, and I just can't get on board with an entity that uses its power to silence people that are trying to talk about important things. So,
well, I'm telling you, Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. He is. I think Kansas's good year is going to start in Missouri next year with winning the Super Bowl. The Chiefs look, they've got a hell of a quarterback. I've never seen anything quite like it. But yeah, I'm with you.
I will remind you, Travis, that I've heard this argument from thousands of Chiefs fans over the years at this point in the season.
Oh no, this is different. This is different.
I'm yet to see it end differently. So
yeah.
I wish them the best. I'll be pulling for them.
I'll pull for them as much as I can pull for an AFC West team that, being a resident of the greater Denver metropolitan area, like I don't go around wearing Chiefs stuff. I wear Broncos stuff, but I mean, yeah, year after year after year of disappointment, and it looks like this guy's for real. I've never he is good. So anyway, yeah, I'm a veteran. Most of us at Veedverks are veterans. It's how we know each other. And I believe that the players are kneeling because of their stated reasons, which is to raise awareness of the way that people of color are being treated by police officers. And everybody who's trying to say that that's disrespectful for veterans, I'm not on board with that. I don't think it is. I don't think they're disrespecting anybody who served in the armed services. It's not about that. They say it's not about that. And so that does get, that's the type of thing that make me just want to quit watching it. But when all of a sudden the Chiefs get a quarterback like Mahomes, I guess
Well, Travis,
I have feelings, but not convictions.
Can we just talk about that for 1 second? It's a topic that I can barely talk about and maintain my composure because of what I have seen for 17 years with my own eyes. But this is what I will say to people who talk about whether or not players kneeling during the national anthem is disrespectful. I am the daughter of a disabled Vietnam veteran who at 18 years old walked in and signed his life away to go to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
He went there, he came back, and he went to college using the GI Bill. But by the time he was getting ready to graduate from college, he was starting to suffer pretty intense, sort of the beginnings of the PTSD surfacing. It didn't happen right away when he came back. It took a few years. So right around the time that he graduated from college with his degree, he had a complete nervous breakdown, and that was right around the time that I was born, in the late 70s. And my entire life, from my earliest memories, are being the child of someone dealing with PTSD. And in the 80s, they didn't even call it that. It didn't even have a name. You were just crazy. They didn't say, oh, when you go to war, you come back and you have PTSD. Nobody knew what that was.
Yeah, battle fatigue or shell shock.
Right? And so here's what I will say to those people that say it's disrespectful for people to kneel. I have watched my dad be treated in the absolute most shameful, disrespectful, disgusting, humiliating way by the Veterans Administration for my whole life. My childhood was spent in poverty because our government felt that it was important to deny Vietnam veterans all their benefits. Is that disrespectful? That caused people to commit suicide. And, every time you file one of these appeals and it gets denied, this was my whole childhood, was sort of going through this experience. I've seen my dad receive the worst medical care that you can imagine at VA hospitals. I've seen him be sent home with broken bones with a bottle of pain pills from the VA that had another person's name on it. This is how we treat our veterans, and then people are going to get upset over some football players that kneel during the anthem while we have this horrific system of health care for our veterans? When are we going to talk about that? I'm ready to talk about it. Let's talk about how it's important to treat our vets with respect, but let's actually treat our vets with respect instead of just talking about it when it's convenient. So those are my thoughts on the issue of people kneeling. My dad, who I've, lived with my whole life, he now lives with me. This isn't something that I would support if I felt like it was dishonoring him. He supports it too. He supports these players and their right to do these things. So that's my thoughts on the players kneeling thing. I haven't had the chance to get all of that out before, so now I've said it.
Well, are you a dog person or a cat person? Or a both person? Or a neither person?
I'm a human person.
You're a human person?
Being in the business of saving people's lives and representing people, I have many clients who are treated far worse by society than I think any animal would be treated. I see people outraged about the way dogs and cats are treated. Seems like far more than I see people outraged about the way I see humans being treated. We have a real crisis in empathy in this country. People find it far easier to be empathetic towards animals than they do towards other humans, and I get it. Humans are far more complex and not nearly as cute, many of them, but that's the business that I've gotten into, and between taking care of my clients, myself, my husband, my daughter, my dad, I've got plenty of humans to take care of, and I don't have a lot of time left at the end of the day for taking care of any animals, at least at this point in my life.
Okay, well, we won't hold it against you. We're coming up on an hour here. I really appreciate your time and conversation, and I'm going to try and get this out to the Kansas folks, and we'll share it, where we share things, and appreciate it. Who's on Thursday?
We have the inventor of Cannabolish.
Oh, cool.
But tomorrow we have a really cool marathon for Signs of the Times.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to be on. So we're going to be on again later. We're going to be talking about something we're going to do tomorrow for Signs of the Times. And then we have the inventor of Cannabolish on Thursday. And then I want to tell everybody, don't forget, November 2nd, Vicente Fox is going to be calling in this show. Michael Miller will be here. And that's a former president of Mexico. That's going to be, that is so crazy, isn't it? It's crazy that you're on here right now. I think it's just fantastic. But
well, Travis, I appreciate you having me on here and trying to get the word out. If anybody has any questions, they can go to my Facebook page, Sarah Swain for Attorney General. They can go to my website, sarahswainforattorneygeneral.com. And I look forward to hearing from people and hopefully seeing some support show up by way of campaign donations. I'm all set up with Act Blue, so anyone who has an Act Blue account can do the one-touch donations. And I thank everybody in advance for that, and thank you, Travis, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, sir. We'll be paying attention. Talk soon. Good luck.
Okay.
Let's do
Thank
this.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. There we go. Did I transition that okay? How was that? Kansas, do. Let's get that fired back up real quick. Because we've got to see this one more time. This song was ubiquitous in my childhood for a while. It was when the tornado warning thing was always in the bottom right corner of the TV, to the point where it would like burn a little tornado image in the TV. But they were constantly playing this. Wait. Yeah, here we go.
It's a wonderland both day and night.
I can't
Stay a while, it feels country breeze, the hills, the trees are clear.
Clear blue Kansas sky. America's Central Park. Make Kansas parky again. Vote for Sarah Swain. But thanks everybody for joining, and next week Michael will be back on, and we will talk to you soon.